Your podcast is not just another item on your to-do list. It's not just content, it is an asset. And today I'm here to challenge you to think bigger. Welcome to the Podcast Cafe, where we're serving up everything you need to know about podcasting, from tips, stories, and strategies for podcasters from podcasters. I'm your host, Hayleigh Hayhurst, the founder of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast agency helping business owners, creatives, and thought leaders launch and grow their shows. Whether you're just starting out or want to take your podcast to the next level, this is the place for you. Each week, we'll dive into practical tips, actionable strategies, and of course, stories from other podcasters so that you can build up a podcast that you love and that works for your business. So, grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get started. Welcome to the Podcast Cafe. Today's Espresso Shot episode is going to make you think differently about your podcast. If your podcast has just become a content hamster wheel that you feel like you cannot get out of, you just feel like you're pumping out content and not feeling the joy in it, and it's not really helping you in your business, that's what we're talking about. That's your sign to pause and reevaluate what strategies you have in place and what you can do differently. So I'm going to walk you through my 4 foundational pillars to help you see your podcast as a business asset, because that's what it is. There's really 4 elements to this that I want to talk about: production, outsourcing, brand, and visibility. So let's get into it. If you're new to my Espresso Shot series, these are 15 minutes and under, so that's why we dive right in. So number 1, production. We want you to make it sustainable. So one of the first things I look at when I'm working with a new podcaster or a podcaster that's new to my business, Espresso Podcast Production, is what is the workflow that you have? Do you have automations for your emails? Are you repurposing it smartly? Or are you simply just grinding? Nothing is automated. Everything has to be done by you. There's a lot that can go into production and promotion and the workflow that can be automated, and I help my clients with all of that to set that up. I also look at what does your recording style look like? So are you someone that records your episodes the day before they're supposed to go live, or are you someone that records your content months in advance? Like, what is your recording schedule like? And ultimately, I also look at what does consistency mean to you and your podcast? So are you putting out quality work? Are you putting out 4 episodes a month? Are you putting out 1 episode a month? Is there no consistency? These are things in production that can be easily fixed. So when I look at all of this, and what I'm asking you to do when you evaluate your podcast in this episode is, what are parts of your podcast process that are repeatable and can be streamlined? So for me, after I want someone on my podcast, I send them an application. They get emailed my calendar link so then they can book in a call with me. It sends them the link to the actual call, so I don't have to send them that. And then it sends them a reminder 24 hours before and 1 hour before. I also have a template that I just plug in the different questions that I want to ask this guest, and it has best practices for recording, what they need to come prepared with, do they need headphones, microphone, all of these things. That way, when someone is going to be on my podcast, they don't have to ask me, because that takes time and I want to make this as streamlined as possible. Post-production, they get an automated email about an hour after we record saying, "Thanks for the interview. That was amazing. Thank you for your time." Just a nice personal touch. Then when the episode has actually gone live, I have another templatized email where I plug in the links, I plug in the graphics, I say, "Thanks so much for joining me. Here's everything. I'll be promoting it. You could promote it too." This makes it sustainable, because if I had to do all of that every single time, that would add a lot of time into the production side of things. Next, I want you to think about outsourcing because you are the voice of your podcast. That does not mean you are also the editor, the scheduler, the person who cuts up the podcast clips, the one who knows exactly what strategy to follow. That's not what you started when you started your podcast, right? So really hand off what you can. It doesn't have to be everything. It could be editing, it could be show notes, it could be audiograms. These are all things I offer. It could be only the strategy and you can still do the production, or it could be you do the strategy and just hand off the production. The most successful podcasters out there are not editing themselves. Hiring helps growth. It's not a sign of weakness. It really just helps streamline everything. That's what we're getting back to. This whole thing is just streamlining it. So what would change if you only had to record and show up? Think about that. How would that change the way that you show up actually for your podcast? Part 3 of this is brand, because a podcast is part of your legacy. I mean, these episodes will be found for months and years to come, and it's a way for you to educate people. There's a difference between getting visible and being remembered. Getting visible is posting a bunch on Instagram, showing up in your stories, sharing reels with trending sounds. Being remembered is when you say something on your podcast and that person can repeat it to someone else and say, I heard the coolest thing from so-and-so on this podcast. I'll send you the episode, but basically it was XYZ. That is building a legacy and being remembered. Other parts of the brand come down to artwork, your intro, your content, because this all reflects who you are now and where you're going, which is why I always recommend adjusting the strategy as you grow. Because you want people to land on your podcast and know who you are and get the feel of what you're all about right off the bat. And that does start with the artwork and intro. So don't forget those parts because this is your brand. This is your legacy. So think about this. If a dream client found your podcast today, would it match the energy of your other offers? Would it match the vibe that you're trying to put out? The brand? Think about that. And part 4 is all about visibility. Making it work for you. Are you hiding your podcast because you feel like it might just be a mindset thing too, honestly, where you're putting out episodes, but you're not really telling people you're a podcast host. You're not repurposing your content across every platform. You're showing up for your podcast, but you're scared to promote it. If this sounds like you, you're not getting visible. And if you're not repurposing your content on multiple platforms, you're really missing out. You're hiding your podcast. That's what's happening. Getting visible also comes down to some of the tactical things like SEO, social media, guest swaps, YouTube. It's all part of your content engine. And so, back to brand, if you are showing up in all these places, you're not hiding your podcast. Make sure that it is the look that you want people to see when they come to you. Okay, back to visibility, because I think this is really important, is visibility does not mean that you are vain. Okay, wanting more eyes on your podcast is incredible. It can lead to more leads for your business and better conversations. And these conversations that you're having, like I said before, can be repeated in rooms that you're not even in. That's your legacy. That's what we're building here. We're getting you visible as a thought leader. So then when other people talk about you, they know you as the expert already. So if you're doing all of this, really your podcast should be bringing you clients and revenue, not just downloads. So think about this. How are you maximizing every episode beyond just the podcast apps? Beyond Apple Podcasts, Spotify? How are you showing up other than that? Your podcast is basically your storefront or your stage, however you want to think about it, your best asset to show up as you are in a long form way that really can build trust. So start thinking of it as that. It's really time to stop treating your podcast as an afterthought and start building it like the powerful business tool that it can be. We see this in all these big podcasts. For them, it's a business tool. For you, maybe it's just something nice to have. Let's make that switch. So just as a recap, we talked about production, outsourcing, brand, and visibility in this really quick episode. I help my clients with all of these things, so if you want more details or you have questions about any of these 4 parts or all 4, send me a message on Instagram and I can definitely answer any questions you have. And I'm really excited because this ties into the next episode with Linda Uglow, where we're talking all about showing up as yourself and not hiding behind the microphone. So I think that this episode and the next one with Linda will really kickstart your podcast into the growth and legacy that it can be. So make sure you subscribe, leave me a review, and let me know if you have any questions. I'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me in the Podcast Cafe. I hope you're leaving with fresh ideas and inspiration to take your podcast to the next level. Remember, podcasting is a journey and you don't have to do it alone. I'm here to help you every step of the way. Let's connect. Be sure you follow me on Instagram at Espresso Podcast Production or visit espressopodcastproduction.com for more tips, resources, and behind the scenes insights. I'd love to hear about your podcasting journey. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling extra generous, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more podcasters just like you find the show. Until next time, grab your coffee, keep creating, and I'll see you back here in the Podcast Cafe.